welcome back. This is the Big Sew Along, and I am your host, Ginny, and I am also thrilled, as always, that you guys choose to spend a little time with me each week, so thank you all so much for being here. This week, we're working on this top. It is Vogue 1701. Before I get started, I just wanted to say you have been trying to put a list of 4 patterns in like a sewing queue in the information box below. I'm not adding one this week because a couple of weeks ago I ordered a bunch of patterns from Vogue when they were on sale, and then the next day I ordered 3 more. So last week my second order of 3 patterns showed up, but the original pattern, which is the patterns that I really wanted to sew for the sew along, have not shown up yet. So I'm a little concerned that they might be lost in the mail, but also I don't know which one of them I want to add to the queue because I haven't had a chance to look at them next to my fabrics. So hopefully those things will arrive sometime soon, and I can figure out what's going to go next in the queue, and as soon as they get here I will add that to the sewing list over on the Facebook group, the Facebook page, which I will link below for you guys so you can have easy access to it. Anyways, that's why I'm not adding any pattern this week, but I will as soon as I possibly can. Now, back to today. Like I said, Vogue 1701. Again, it's this pattern. We did this version here, the sleeves, and I wanted to make this tunic length, so I added 6 inches. As it turns out, I probably could have got away with like 5 inches, would have been fine. I just made a deeper hem on this, but it's fine either way. So let me give you a quick rundown here on this. It's standard Vogue sizing, so US 8 to 26. Bust measurements 31.5 to 48. You know, waist and hip is kind of irrelevant because it's really loose at the waist and the hip. Also, I will say that I cut the medium in this, which on here is a 12 to 14, 34 to 36 bust, and it is pretty generous, you can see. So just FYI. I have a couple of other things to talk about the pattern, like my thoughts on the pattern, but we'll do that later. Okay, so that's the standard sizing. The rating on this one is easy. I would 100% agree with that. This was easy. I think the most difficult thing is the zipper, maybe. Sometimes when you put a zipper in, like all the way to the top of a collar or the top of a pair of pants, it's hard to get that top edge even. That would maybe be the most difficult thing. Okay, so it says here, loose fitting top has bias stand-up collar, neckline gathers, and invisible center back zipper. The sleeveless version has purchased bias facing, and B, the one we make today, has raglan sleeves with bias cuffs. Fabrics recommended are poplin, linen blends, crepe, unsuitable for IVS diagonals. Okay, so I made, like I said, the medium, and I used a 100% cotton. It's just like a nice shirting weight cotton. You do need a zipper. It says a 9-inch zipper. I used a longer zipper, and I'll show you in the tutorial how I put my zippers in, which is why I always have a longer zipper. I think my zipper was actually 22 inches, so that was way too long, but you'll see in the tutorial here. Okay, let's see. So for the medium, I had 60-inch wide fabric. For the medium with the sleeves, it says 2 1/4 yards. With 60-inch fabric. For 45-inch fabric, it says 2 7/8. Just remember that if you're lengthening this like I did, this says 2 1/4. I'm sure I had 3 yards of this, and I also had leftover. So you're gonna need a little more if you're gonna lengthen it, obviously. Okay, I think that's all we have to say about this pattern up front. Let's go to the tutorial and then I'll come back and tell you some more about it. So the first thing I did on this pattern was just to lengthen it, and I lengthened mine 6 inches, and I used a lengthen shorten line, and I just split it and moved the bottom down 6 inches. And you can see here that in order to make my lines match up on the side, I did have to add a little sliver of paper on the side here too. I did that on the front and the back. Okay, the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our front piece and our back piece. The front piece neckline, we're going to sew 2 rows of basting stitch across the top for gathering later. You can do that same thing on both of the back pieces. And then you're just going to sew the back pieces to the front piece, right sides together, along the side seam only, just to the underarm. You're going to finish that seam and press it towards the back. Once we get that done, we're just going to put this whole body aside for a few minutes. And we're going to move on to the sleeve. The sleeve looks like this. And on one side, you'll see you have 2 dots. You can't really see mine very well here, but they're right here. Here and here. You're going to sew a line of basting stitches through those 2 dots. So go a few stitches before and a few stitches after. And then we're going to clip from the hem right up to that dot, but not through the stitching. Just like that. Then you're going to press that little flap up on that stitching line, just like that. And then you're going to fold that top edge under, so you've got like a double fold there. It's like a tiny hem, just like that. Once you have that done, it'll look like this on the back and like this on the front. Then we're going to go ahead and sew this underarm seam right here. You're going to press that seam towards the back, and on this one, the notch that we just finished is on the back side of the sleeve. So go ahead, sew that seam together, press it toward, finish it, press it towards the back, which is this side with the little notch in it. And then we're going to run 2 rows of gathering stitches around the bottom here, and you're going to want to start here, go around the sleeve, and come up to this end. So you're obviously not going to gather where there's no fabric, but you want it to be continuous around the other side. So that's our sleeve, and you can see I've gone ahead and put a light gather in there. This is not a really puffy gathery sleeve, so I've just done it lightly. Then we're going to find our cuff, which looks like this. They tell you to use non-fusible interfacing and to go ahead and sew it in, and you're welcome to do that. I just used regular fusible interfacing. For this cotton, I used sew shear, which is what I usually use. Then I just folded, one edge has a notch in it. The edge that is not notched, I folded under by my seam allowance, which is 5/8 of an inch. And then I'm going to trim that down to about 3/8 of an inch. Once that's trimmed down, we're going to go ahead and put this on our sleeve. So you should have a couple of dots closer towards the edge, like here and here. Those are going to go on the edge. They're going to match up with the edge of your opening there. So my opening's there, and that dot is going to go right there. And this one is going to go over here. The square you're going to match up, which on mine is just a big big blue mark, but you're going to match that up with your underarm seam, and then you'll have a notch in both your sleeve and in your cuff. You want to match those up. And now with those 3 things matched, you're just going to check and see how much gathering you may need to release or pull in. Now on this side, I have a little too much, so I'm just going to move that out a bit. Now before you sew that in though, just double check to make sure it's gathered pretty evenly all the way around. So once you get that done, we're just going to go ahead and sew that in. on both sleeves. And then you're going to trim that seam allowance and press it towards the cuff. Okay, I just want to show you guys a couple of things really quickly. Let me move you up here so you can see a little better. When you sew this cuff on to your sleeve, it's like this. That's our opening right there. You just want to be sure that your stitching stops and starts right at the edge of that opening right here, so that you don't have a little gap on the outside when you're finished. Okay, then we're pressed. That's what we look like so far. Now we're gonna, from the right side, you're gonna fold the cuff backwards, like to the right side. And you're gonna match up those edges right here. And just make sure you're really precise. I am going to hand stitch mine down. If you're going to do stitch in the ditch to hold it down on the inside, make sure the edge of your fabric comes just over that seam line. Actually, it's probably best to do that in any case. Then we're going to sew right along this edge. And I think it's easiest to start at the hem from here and sew right up to this edge. And again, you want it to be right even with that edge where your opening is. So it's like that. You don't want a little gap there. And then you're going to do that on this side as well. You can see I'm laying that so the edge of my folded over piece is just a hair beyond the seam line. And we want to sew it right up to this edge, to the edge of this opening. And then you're going to do the exact same thing on the other sleeve. Once we have those edges sewn, we're just going to flip that over to the back, like usual, and stitch that down on the inside. Give it a good press. And it's a pretty cool cuff. Yeah. Okay, so it should look like this. And you can see on mine, I actually hand stitched mine down, but you can, like I said, stitch in the ditch here, and just be sure you've got that folded over on the back enough to catch it. The next thing we're going to do is put our sleeves into our dress. So we're going to go back to our front and back. We're going to line up this side seam of our dress with the underarm seam of our shirt. And then you're just going to work your way around each side. Because this is a raglan, it doesn't meet, the armhole doesn't meet at the top. You're just going to go one side and then the other side. All right, once you get those pinned in, you're just going to sew them, finish them, press the seams towards the sleeve, and then I think we're done with our sleeves for the moment. All right, that is our sleeves done, except for buttons and buttonholes. We're going to move on to the neckband, and we're going to prepare that the same way we did our cuffs, by folding the unnotched edge up 5/8 of an inch and pressing it. And this time though, they want us to baste this down, which I have done, and then trim this down to 3/8 of an inch. Then we're going to match our notches and our centers on our neckband and our dress. That is the center right there. Okay, once we get this pinned like this, we're going to go ahead and just pull up our threads on our top around the collar, and you'll see you'll have basting or some gathering here at the back, from the back to the raglan sleeve mark. And then it's flat across the sleeve, across the top of the sleeve. There's no gathering. And then you're going to gather again on the other side of the sleeve. Once we have that pinned in, we're just going to go sew that on with our 5/8 inch seam allowance, and then we're going to trim the seam allowance down and press it towards the collar, just like we did with the cuffs. Now, I moved all of my pins to this side so I can sew with the gathered side up, and I do that so that I can keep better track of what's going on with the gathers, and I can more easily avoid getting any tucks in there. Okay, now we have our collar on. I am going to show you how I sew in an invisible zipper, which is not the method they use in this pattern. The first thing I do is I serge or finish off both sides of my fabric. And then I sew it up from the hem to the bottom of the zipper opening. I am going to lay my zipper down next to my dress, and I'm going to line my zipper stop up with that center notch. And right here, the seam between my collar and my dress, I'm going to put a little chalk mark. And again, I'm using blue so you guys can see it, but usually I would use yellow or something that's less visible. Then I'm going to zip my zipper back up, and I'm going to continue that line so it's the same on both sides. Alright, like that. Then I'm going to open this up. And of course I should have put the marks on the other side instead of on the front. But you're going to be able to see it here. It's right here. Okay. Now on this, I'm going to open this up. I'm going to put my zipper stop right at this notch. And I'm going to make sure that this chalk line is right on my seam. So it's going to be like that. I forgot to say that to do it this way, it's really important that your zipper is longer than it needs to be. Mine is, I don't know if you can see that, my opening ends here. Mine's probably like 6 or 7 inches longer, which is completely unnecessary. It really just needs to be an inch or so longer. Alright, I am going to go and sew this in with my invisible zipper foot. And when I get down here, I'm going to make sure that the stitching from my zipper is exactly in line with the stitching from the bottom of my dress, which is right here. My dress ends right here, and I can see if I pin that in, it should be right in line with my zipper, I hope. Anyways, that's what we're gonna do, and then we'll be right back. Once we have that one side in, we just need to flip the dress over. And now, with our zipper still open, make sure you haven't got it twisted or anything, like mine is right there. You're going to lay this back down this way, and you can see that little nib that we have goes right here at our notch. Sorry, I think it's called a zipper stop, not a nib. And I'm upside down. I'm going to turn this around this way, you guys. And then we know that this blue line needs to match up with our seam at the neck. So match that up. Like you can see that this is going to pull a little bit here. It's fine. That needs to match up with that seam. That way those two seams will match when we zip our dress shut. And now we're just going to keep going down. And same thing, when you get down here to the bottom of the zip, just make sure you're sewing at a 5/8 inch seam allowance right here, so that your zipper seam line matches up with your dress seam line. Now, I know a lot of people use steam-a-seam. I do sometimes use steam-a-seam to hold a zipper in place. This two-sided steam-a-seam. I just sometimes find that it is kind of a pain on that roll, and it unrolls all over the place and stuff. So sometimes I just don't want to deal with the tape itself, but I actually like using it for holding a zipper in place. So if you have some that's not a giant mess, I recommend using that. All right, let's go sew that in. Once you have the zipper in, you're gonna zip it up. You may need a pair of tweezers to pull it through the little hole at the bottom. And I would show you how to do that, but I already did mine and now I can't get it to go back through the hole. So I did not need tweezers. Sometimes you can just push this little, the pull up through the hole and it'll zip right up. But you can see how that gives a really nice finish right here at the bottom with no holes or gaps. And then at the top here, you can see hopefully how that seam line at the neck matches up pretty closely. It looks like it's off by like a fraction. But it's pretty good. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is on the wrong side. So obviously your zipper is probably not going to be this long. It doesn't need to be. You're going to clip this off about an inch lower than the bottom of your opening. So just like that. Now we have our zipper in here. Before we finish up our collar, I want to make, this is obviously the wrong side, the inside. This is the bottom of my zipper where I cut it off. And I just want to clean that up and make it look a little bit nicer. And the way I'm going to do that is, I've cut a little piece of bias from my fabric, and it's about, I don't know, 2 1/4 by 1.5, I guess. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it right side down. This is the bottom of my zipper, the inside facing up. I'm going to put my fabric piece wrong side down. And I'm going to wrap both of those ends around the bottom of my zipper. Just like that. And then I'm going to go and stitch across this right here. I don't know, like 1/2 inch or 3/8 of an inch from the bottom. So be careful, you are going to go over your zipper. So go really slowly, crank it by hand over your zipper so you don't break any teeth. Well, I said so you don't break any teeth, but I meant so you don't break your needle. Anyway, now we have something that looks like this, right? And you're just going to pull this off, pull it down like this. So you have a little piece hanging off like that. You're going to press that under. And then you're just going to fold that whole thing to the back and stitch in the ditch right here. And again, you are going to go over that zipper, those zipper teeth, so be careful so you don't break your needle. But honestly, on these invisible zippers like this, it's usually not really a big problem. Okay, then we're going to come up here to this collar. And the way we're going to do that, oh, you know what, the other thing is, like once you get this done, you want to either hand tack or tack by machine a little tack on either side of your zipper. Right here and right here. And you're just tacking it to the seam allowance, not to your dress. And that's just going to keep your zipper from moving around and especially at the bottom, pulling out or anything. It'll make it a little more stable so that it lays a little flatter on the outside. Now for the collar. Let's turn this lady inside or right side out. And we have something that looks like this. There's our zipper. So what you're going to want to do is pull the seam allowance of your zipper out, and then you'll see the top of your collar is right here where the zipper stop is. I usually like to fold this long end of my zipper, whatever's left, fold it down now and fold it off to the side like that. I hope you can see that. I'm going to pin it in place so you guys can see. Actually, I'm going to press that really fast so you can see. Okay, there we go. So now, I don't always press it, but it's easier for you guys to see it if I do. So there's my the tail end of my zipper hanging off to the side there. Now, with that off to the side, it's easier for me to just fold this over, right sides together, and I make sure my notch is right there at the center. Now when you're doing this, make sure the teeth of your zipper are sort of folded out to the side. You want them to be folded towards, like towards your dress, and you're going to want to kind of hold them down so they don't curl back in while you're pinning, and then stick your pins in. Okay, now we're just going to go to the sewing machine, and we're going to sew from here to here with our zipper foot. You can feel where the zipper is, so it's not hard. You don't want to be right on top of the zipper because you don't want to get on the teeth, so you don't have to be as close as you were, for example, when you're sewing your zipper in. Then you're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. Alright, so that is our collar sewn over to the wrong side. Now we're going to clip this corner, and I like to trim this top layer down a fair bit all the way to the bottom so that that seam there is a little less bulky. And then I trim this one down as well, but I don't want to trim down too far because I want it to be covered by the bottom of the other side. So just like that is good. I hope that makes sense. So then we're going to turn this right side out. Oh, dang. And do you see that? How my zipper tape slipped out this way? That is actually why I like to fold it to the other side. It's supposed to be like that. See how it's all nice and tidy in there and you can't see that zipper tape at all? That's what it's supposed to be like. So I'm going to have to redo this corner and get that zipper out there. But anyways, once you get this folded to the right side, you're going to trim and fold the other side. And then you're just going to lay the inside down here. And for me, I'm going to go ahead and hand stitch mine down. But if you don't want to hand stitch it, you can do our stitch in the ditch from the right side. You're going to stitch right in this seam. Just be sure when you do that you're catching that inside piece. That's our collar completely put on, and I just wanted to show you how, well, get that thread out of the way, how that looks once you finish that tab on the bottom of the zipper. And you can see that I've stitched it to the seam allowance there on the side, just to keep it from moving around. Okay, that is it. All you have left to do is your buttonholes on your cuffs and your hem. I've already done my buttonholes, so I don't know if you can see those buttons there. They're gonna blend pretty well, but anyways, my buttonholes. And I am giving myself a 2-inch hem because I feel like this is maybe a little bit longer than I wanted it to be. But I think a 2-inch hem is going to be good. And we are all finished. Okay, so that's our Vogue 1701 shirt/tunic. My thoughts on this are, well, I do love it. I think I love it. I love my fabric. I am honestly not 100% sure about this collar. There are a couple of things about the collar. Number one, they have you interface the entire collar instead of just half and folding it over, which makes it pretty stiff. Maybe that's not a bad thing. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like in the photograph it does look like this in the photograph. Whatever, I don't know. I'm just not sure about the collar yet. However, I will say what I don't like about the collar, it's actually not about the collar, what I don't like is they have you go to the trouble of putting a zipper into the back of this thing, which is obviously not like hugely difficult. But the thing is, you don't need a zipper because this neckline is plenty wide to go over my head, even with my glasses on. So unless, I mean, I do have a slightly small head for a normal adult human being, but my guess is that most people would be able to slip this on over their head. So I don't know why you would put a zipper on something that you can slip on over your head, because it doesn't add anything to like the design or anything like that. If it was buttons or something, maybe I get it. So there's that. And then also, I'm going to make this go back a little so you guys can see a little better. These sleeves with the cuff, this is pretty wide, like this way. And I guess it's, again, it looks like that in the pattern. I guess I was just expecting it to be a little bit narrower. So if I make this again, I think I would probably make my cuffs a little bit smaller so that it's a little more gathered. I do like the length that I made, which, like I said, I added 6 inches. I'll put some pictures up here for you guys to take a look. So yeah, I think that's the only thing. Like, I'm not sure about facing the entire collar, and I'm not so sure about the width of the sleeves or the cuffs. And I'm definitely not digging putting a zipper into something that can easily slip over my head. But at the end of the day, I do like it. I'm gonna get my hair cut in a week or so. Maybe I'll like it better when my hair's short. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, so next week we are going to be sewing Vogue 1739, which is this pattern right here, and I will link for that below, along with a list of the next, the 2 following sew-alongs, because like I said at the beginning, I don't have the 4th one picked yet. And I think that's it, you guys. Pretty sure that's it. All right, thanks so much for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope to see you guys on Friday for another Friday Sews. Until then, happy sewing.